Well, good morning everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Fells of Great Britain. Today I'm in the valley of Tilberthwaite, which is just outside Coniston, and today's ascent will include a trek up a very fine mountain called Wetherlam. Right now I'm situated at the head of the Tilberthwaite Valley. It's more of a ravine than a valley. It's very sheer and very precipitous. And Tilberthwaite is one of the most splendid valleys in Lakeland. I came upon it by accident coming off Wetherlam a few years ago, and I didn't really know much about the area. But in the sunshine of the afternoon when I came down the mountain, Tilberthwaite was lit up wonderfully, and it is really beautiful, especially when everything is in leaf. Now, of course, I'm on the fells today in December, so it has a very different feel to it. But the sunshine is absolutely spectacular. Let me just show you a little of my situation here, which is just at the head of the valley before the final ascent to the top of Wetherlam. Now, Wetherlam isn't a very high mountain. It's not one of the big four. I think it's about 2,500 feet, but it does involve, on some of its routes, some quite tricky terrain and just a little bit of a scramble on this particular route that I'm on today. Now, in recent walks, I've had a few difficulties with ice and my boots not giving me the grip I need, so let's just hope that today I'll be able to get to the top. So let me show you where I am. Okay, well, there's the start of the ridge to the top of Wetherlam. Just adjusting the focus. I'm not quite sure if it's in focus. Hopefully it is now. And you can see that the winter sunshine is just so spectacular. Brings out all of the relief in the terrain. And this kind of sunshine will linger all day because the sun sits low in the sky for the whole of the day. Okay then, let's take a look at the route today, courtesy of Google Earth, that wonderful software that allows people like me to show people like you these wonderful routes in Lakeland. The Lake District National Park lies in the county of Cumbria in the northwest of England, and we begin our walk in the small settlement of Tilberthwaite, an old mining settlement that lies to the north of Coniston. Taking the path out of the quarry at Tilberthwaite, we head due west following the course of Udale Beck through a steep and rocky ravine for around a mile or so. We then turn north and head through Dry Cove Bottom along a well-made path that is easy to follow. At Dry Cove, we turn west again and head up the stepped path to a small saddle at the foot of Wetherlam Edge. From here we gain far-reaching views to the Lakeland Fells in the north. Turning southwest, we now take Wetherlam Edge, a brief Grade 1 scramble to the summit of Wetherlam. Our descent is made to the south via Hen Crag, following the crest on Above Beck Fells. Here we gain beautiful views to the south of Coniston and its associated lake, Coniston Water. At Hull Rake, we turn northeast on a good path that will take us back to Tilberthwaite Gill, from where we follow the path that takes the route of Udale Beck back to the settlement of Tilberthwaite, where our walk finishes. The walk covers around 5.5 miles and will take anywhere between 3.5 and 5 hours to complete. Wetherlam's summit lies around 2,500 feet above sea level. I don't know if this video is coming across to you in the way the real thing is coming across to me, but if so, you will find it as spellbinding as myself. I've been up this valley a few times and it's always so impressed me, and I've done it at various times in the year, so this is the first time I've done it during the winter. And I don't know what it is about it, but it's just got this soft, undulatory feel to it, and this backdrop of very craggy mountain scenery. And I think its situation, I think Wainwright says that it's beautifully situated for the sunlight. So throughout most of the year, if you get a sunny day, it really is quite spectacular. Now, we've had Storm Barra run through the UK recently, but I don't think this tree came down during last week's storm. That's been down a while. Of course, storms ravage parts of the country like this, these mountainous parts of England and Wales, every year, and we lose trees. But every now and again we get a very severe blow, as we had last week, which brought with it lots of flooding as well. Now, as I walk along here, I'll just show you in a moment, and hopefully it will be seen clearly on the camera, but this particular valley head is just so spectacular. It's full of visual interest. Let me just show you. Well, I'm not sure if you're going to be able to see anything. The sun is very difficult to deal with, but it is a lovely spot. I'm not planning on coming down via this route, and I'm sure if I did in the evening sunshine it would be easier to photograph. But this route is worth doing for this view alone when the light is right. And Wainwright in his guides speaks very highly of it. You've got these lovely lone trees here, as you can see. Just how on earth do they grow out of the rocks? But they do, they just cling on, and they look half dead, which sort of increases their visual appeal. How do they exist in an environment like this? And as we just saw, when the wind blows, some of them come down. Well, I'm almost at the small saddle on this ascent, which marks the start of a little bit of a scramble, which I'll show you in a minute. I don't think today I'll do any filming whilst undertaking the scramble. It might be a little bit icy. But let me just show you the wonderful view of Tilberthwaite Valley and beyond to Coniston Water. Okay. Now you can see Coniston Water coming into view, and then an endless array of fells going off into the distance. And then around here is our objective for the day, which is Wetherlam. And you can see that there's a little bit of a steep ascent that I'm about to undertake. So let's crack on with it, and I think I'll catch you again at the top. Bye for now. I said earlier that that lake over there was Coniston. It isn't, of course, it's Windermere. And there's the bulk of Wetherlam shimmering in the sunshine. Right, I'm at the what I would call the saddle. It's probably not a proper saddle, actually. It doesn't lie between two mountains and it isn't really a pass, but I'll stick with the term. It's a little bit of a respite area before you take on the final little push to the top, which is behind me now. You can just see it there. There you go. Well, I'll show you properly in a minute. I'm in the way. But this is a wonderful vantage point. You can see plenty of mountains here. Let me show you. So over there, the little knobbly peaks are Crinkle Crags. And then as we move to the right, we've got Bowfell. And over here we've got the Langdales. And in the far distance over there we've got Skidder and Blencathra, which are the two mountains that lie to the north of Keswick. So it really is a splendid vantage point. Well, once again I've had to abandon the hike to the summit, just like on my last walk. Combination of too much frost and boots that were not up to the job. And when you get to my age, you have to be a bit more tuned into the risk assessment. So I got about 2/3 of the way up, as I did on Sharp Edge last week, and found that it was looking a bit too dicey. So I came back, stopped off briefly to have something to eat, and I thought I'd try and put the drone up to see if we could get the summit within sight. Just about succeeded in doing that, so that's on your screens now. the light has improved as the day has worn on. Crinkle Crags again there, and on the right Bowfell, and then around here we've got the Langdales, Pike of Stickle, Harrison Stickle and Pavey Ark, and over there Skidder and Helvellyn. So the decision to abandon the ascent has meant that I couldn't complete the descent on the original route, and so I've had to retrace my steps and come down the way I came up. But that's no bad thing, because the weather has improved, the sunshine is better, the sun has shifted round so that Tilberthwaite now, as I'll show you in a second, is much better illuminated, less haze, less sun in the camera, so fantastic for photography. And as I said earlier, there are these fabulous trees. They're all looking very naked and gaunt at the moment, but in the summer they explode into leaf. Lonely things just stuck on the fell side with nothing else, with only a few braying sheep to keep them company. And up there you can see Wetherlam. Looks glorious in the sunshine. It's a black and white experience today for people ascending the mountain. If I'd chosen to come up from Coniston, I would have been able to get to the top, because that was south facing and will be free of ice, as the ground is where I'm stood now. But I'm afraid the north face was frozen solid. So this valley is splendid, as I've said, but there's also a lot of history here on the Coniston Fells. We're on the Coniston Massif here. Wetherlam is part of the Coniston Massif, and mining and quarrying has been very much a feature of these fells, the Coniston Fells, for, as it turns out when I looked it up, about 800 years. Slate has been mined here since the 12th century. And it's the green slate, and you can see from the rocks, the green hue in the rocks, that very much is the reason why the slate that's quarried here has this green colour. And I've read that green slate is harder than black slate, but more expensive. And slate quarrying still continues, but copper mining, which also has a long history of many centuries, that came to an end at the beginning of the 20th century, in the early 1900s. So copper is no longer mined here, but there are copper workings all over the fells, and they provide an added level of interest for the walker. And these old ruins, I believe, are quarrymen lodges. It was such a trek to get onto the fells for a day's work that I think many of these quarrymen would stay up here during the week. Must have been brutal at times when the weather was inclement. The sunlight is very difficult to deal with, but there are lots of marsh areas down there and lone trees. And it just breaks up what would otherwise be an uninteresting view and just turns it into something quite lovely. Now Tilberthwaite is famous for one of its quarry workings, long since disused. I think it's called Black Hole Quarry. If you follow the path through Tilberthwaite and around towards the north, you'll eventually come to this quarry, and there's a very interesting cave. Well, I called it a cave, but of course it's an excavation that has the appearance of a cave, and it has a feature in it called the Great Arch, and the cave itself is called Cathedral Cave, and you can walk into it through a dark tunnel and enter a huge great void with a great big pillar structure holding up the roof, and there's evidence of a roof collapse in the past. It's not barred from public access, so it's a reasonable safe thing to enter, but it is very interesting and very exciting, and it's a great place to take kids. I think I certainly plan to take my grandchildren there when they're a little bit older. A good day out, and it doesn't cost any money. Now, some years ago, we'll try and see if I can dig this out. I was in the cave and some choristers came in to rehearse. There were only two of them, middle-aged ladies, who broke into song. And it was just absolutely spellbinding. I got a brief recording on it on my phone. I didn't have decent videography equipment at that time, so I'll see if I can find it and perhaps put it in this video, because it really is quite touching. Now, the natural history of the Lake District is known and accepted by all, and in fact that's why many of us, myself included, come walking on the fells. But the social history of the Lake District is also quite fascinating, going all the way back to the time of the Romans. This landscape has been remodelled again and again and reinvented. And I think there are lessons to be learned from that process over many hundreds of years for the parts of our country now that are blighted by unwelcome change. In the northeast, for example, and Wales, the deindustrialisation of our country is recognised increasingly to be a problem. But the Lake District has gone through tumultuous periods of change as well. Coniston, for example, started as a mining town. It would have been a very industrial place, and it obviously wasn't considered worthy to give its name to the lake that it was on the shore of, and so Coniston Water was originally named Thurston Water. Coniston was a mining and quarrying town, and that's all it was there for. And look at it now. People who visit Coniston now would have no sense of its industrial heritage. They would just see it as a picture postcard tourist town with all the facilities that tourists expect and need. It's a lovely example of how, with the right kind of intention, right kind of aspiration, things can be changed very much for the better. So the Lake District over the years has gone from being a semi-militarised zone occupied by the Romans, and then it was largely deforested and handed over to sheep farming, and the big landowners obviously made a fortune on the back of that. And in more recent times, as things like quarrying and copper and tin mining took over, many of the settlements in the Lake District became known for those industries. And now, of course, all that has gone as well, and the Lake District has completely reinvented itself into this wonderful recreational area for the British people. I don't think there's anyone in England, Wales or Scotland who hasn't heard of the Lake District, or in fact has never been there. A wonderful transformation. And long may this place continue to be what it is. Well, I think on that note I'll end here, and since it's the festive season, I'll wish you all a happy Christmas and a wonderful New Year, and hope you'll join me again in the new year for more wandering in the fells of Great Britain. So goodbye for now. Beautiful.